Okay, so let's take an example. If 18 dolls cost rupees 430, how many dolls can be bought for rupees 455? Cost and quantity, it varies directly, because if you increase the quantity, the cost will increase. So to identify, first we have to identify the proportion. This is direct proportion. As we know that it is direct proportion, that means first thing we should do, whether it is direct or inverse, we'll make a table. In table, see, we have number of dolls and the cost. So I write here number of dolls and here I write the cost. This is X, this one is Y. Number of dolls 18, cost is rupees 630. How many dolls can be bought? So I write here X and rupees 455. Now it is direct proportion. So simply x1 upon y1 is equal to x2 upon y2. That means 18 upon 630 equal to x upon 455. So we get x is equal to 18 upon 630 into 455. Simplifying this, you will get the number of dolls. Let's cancel it. 9 2s are, this is 70 times, 2 35 times, and 35 13 times. So 13 dolls can be purchased for rupees 455. Finally, we will write the answer according to the question. 13 dolls can be bought for rupees 455. Second example. 35 men can reap a field in 8 days. In how many days can 20 men reap the same field? So, number of days, work and time. If we increase the men, the time to complete the work will decrease. So it is the case of inverse proportion. This is inverse variation. The first thing you should do is just to identify whether it is direct variation or inverse variation. Then we will complete the table. In the table we have to write number of men, number of days. Number of men, number of days. So when there are 35 men, it is completed in 8 days. If there are 20 men, it will be completed in how many days? So as we have inverse variation, so we have x1 y1 is equal to x2 y2. That means 35 into 8 is equal to 20 into y, or y is equal to 35 into 8 divided by 20. So 4 2s are, 4 5s are, and 5 7s are. The work will be completed in 14 days is your answer. So this way you can solve the questions based on direct and inverse proportion. Next is square and square root and cube roots. So square and square root chapter, it is very important to remember the properties. The first property you should remember, that is a number ending with 2, 3, 7 or 8 is never a perfect square. Properties of perfect squares you need to remember. The number which ends with 2, 3, 7, 8 is not a perfect square. That is, if you are given that the number like 572, then we'll write it is not a perfect square. It is not a perfect square because no square number ends with 2, 3, 7 or 8, and also odd number of zeros. You cannot have a perfect square with odd number of zeros at the end. For example, if the number is 525000, there are 3 zeros at the end, so it will not be a perfect square because it ends with odd number of zeros. So any number ending with odd number of zeros is not a perfect square. Then to find a Pythagorean triplet, you need to remember the formula, that is 2m m square minus 1 m square plus 1. 2m m square minus 1 m square plus 1. Example, find a Pythagorean triplet whose one member is 8. So what do you need to do? One member is 8. So what do you need to do? First is take half of the number. First step is half of the number. Then write the square of this number. Then write its successor and predecessor. For example, half of 8 is 4. First step, half of 8 is 4. Then we have to take the square. Square will be 16 and its successor is 17, predecessor is 15. So the answer is 8, 15 and 17 is a Pythagorean triplet. Very easy, just remember this, half of the number, then find out its square, then write its successor and predecessor. This is Pythagorean triplet for even numbers we are saying only. Only for even numbers I have told you the example, that is 8. Similarly, let's take one more example. If it is 6. 6 is one member. Half of 6 is 3. 3 square, 9. Its successor 10, predecessor 8. So the Pythagorean triplet will be 6, 8 and 10. So we have to take the half of the number, square it and write its successor or predecessor to get the Pythagorean triplet.